Welcome back. You're watching Dukascopy TV and I'm Darren McDermott. Well, today we are going to take a look at the euro dollar, dollar yen, the US markets and a very brief look at gold. I have Jean-François from MJT in the studio. Welcome today, Jean-François.
Hi, Darren.
So let's begin with the euro dollar. Now, in light of Draghi's comments, what are we seeing? What levels do you think it will reach?
Okay, well, we're back on the fingraphs.com website on our mosaic for Dukascopy with euro dollar, cable, Australian dollar, gold, dollar Swiss, dollar yen, 3 months S&P futures and 3 months Treasury bonds futures. Now let's focus on the euro. And what we have here is an investor's view. An investor's view is a longer term perspective based on a weekly chart, a daily chart and an hourly chart. And what we can see here is that the weekly long term is still in an uptrend. We still believe it's quite a weak uptrend, but it is an uptrend. And following many months of exhaustion, as we had pointed it out since the beginning of the year, the euro has finally started to turn down. Now let's focus on the daily chart. And the big question here is that, is this only a correction in an uptrend? As said, we are still in an uptrend on the weekly, although it's quite weak. Or could it turn impulsive and create a strong down move, let's say towards the low 30s, even in the 20s level? Now, what is going to be crucial here is that in order for it to be just a correction, it needs to hold our corrective targets. The low end of our corrective targets is around 134.91 and 92. So as long as we stay above that, we would only label this as a consolidation in an uptrend. Now we've gone quite some ways already. We've entered the target zone in terms of time and price targets. And usually when you get in this position, at some point you get a rebound. Now, if these levels don't hold and we start breaking below, let's say the 135 level, then a watch out, because there's something much bigger into play, and that could probably bring us 5 to 10 figures below. Now, how is this evolving over the short term? Well, the hourly is also in a downtrend, and at the moment it doesn't seem quite finished yet. We are in exaggeration. You do have both our envelopes touching each other, meaning the short-term envelope has hit against the longer-term one, meaning that it has gone too quickly in respect and needs to take a breathe. We see our risk index, which is well in the oversold zone, which means it is an exaggeration. And those exaggerations could trigger a bit of correction up. However, it does seem like this move down still has probably a week to 10 days to go and could bring us down to the 136 level. So it would still be negative on the euro at the moment. And our crucial levels are probably going to be watching the 135 level in about 10 days to 2 weeks. Now, moving on the mosaic again, I also wanted to look at the dollar against the yen.
Because we actually have seen the US dollar quite strong against the yen since Kuroda's Wall Street Journal comments.
Well, we've had a small reaction, yes. I mean, the Japanese central bank has done a lot over the last 18 months to ease the pressure on the strength of the yen. There were quite a lot of doubts since the beginning of the year because we've had a retracement of that move, and so let's focus on a dollar yen here and see where we stand and ask ourselves if the yen can weaken again, which would support the Japanese economy in the near future. Now, if we look at the weekly, it's still heading up. We've pretty much reached the targets. I mean, we've come to 105. We could probably make it up to 110. So although it's still going up, there's probably not that much of potential to the upside. However, it's still an uptrend and the trend is still supportive. Now, we could quite well see the correction down that was initiated since the beginning of the year. We basically moved down to our corrective area here. And here too we have a 100.379 as the bottom end of our corrective targets, which also means that as long as we hold above these levels, we're probably only looking at a correction. And it's quite interesting to see that although it has lingered on a bit longer, these correction targets have pretty much held up to now, and that we may be in a position to resume the uptrend. Now on the daily here, we don't have that much of a strong signal at the moment, because as you see, the risk index is in the middle of the range, the envelopes are in the middle of the range, so we're going to look for more shorter term impulses to reinitiate an uptrend of the pair. So that's what we have at the moment on the hourly. We've had quite a nice little reaction here. It comes from a very oversold position in the oscillator, stress on the envelopes, and it's slowly making it up to the high end of our corrective targets up. Similarly, but the opposite way as what we were saying on the daily, if we make it above the 102.10 here, it means that we could enter an acceleration phase on the hourly. And that acceleration phase in turn could bring us out of this consolidation period on the daily and reinitiate the uptrend on the weekly. Now, just wanted to have a look at S&P 500 here.
Still hitting highs.
Still hitting new highs. We had tone last week that we thought was pretty much exhausted at this stage. We've been bullish for now 18 months. At some point, you have to turn a bit more cautious.
Exactly.
But it's very strong and it's keeping on. But
how long can it last? That's the question, Jean-François.
That's the question. And so let's have a quick flick through. Well, as we were pointing, there's still some potential on the weekly. It's a very aggressive target, impulsive 2. It's quite rare on the FinGraph system, and we are in exaggeration on the risk oscillator and on the envelopes. But in theory, on the weekly, it's not finished yet. However, on the daily, we've seen that we've reached the impulsive up zone, that we have stress on the envelopes, that our oscillator is well in the red, trying to turn down below the red, which is, it's taking a bit of time to do so. At the moment, it looks like it still wants to play a bit more with us to the upside, but again, we don't think there's that much potential there. Finally, on the hourly, similar situation. I mean, we've pretty much reached the targets. We were once already in the red, came out, had a correction, is moving back up, attempting a new top. Seems to be a tiny bit more to go here, but we do feel that there's not very much, and that at some point this consolidation is going to stop. We're not talking, because of the weekly, which is still up, about a major reversal. We might in the future if things accelerate to the downside, but we do think we're going to enter a few months of consolidation. Now, and we're anticipating our signals a bit here. And now, finally with gold. We've touched on gold quite a few times in recent months. There's not much happening at the moment. So basically, we're still in a downtrend over the long term. We did have an exaggeration zone at the end of last year. We had a bounce, which was quite significant, but we've failed to reconfirm this bounce. And we're now in a corrective move down, and it would really accelerate if we made it below 1235 again. So it's basically a resumed downtrend situation. Although it's negative, it's actually been very, very sideways on the hourlies. And so we'd really need to see some kind of an acceleration down to call this resumed downtrend. But to put into perspective, you have 3 bears, so there's nothing to be awaited at the moment on gold.
Jean-François, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Dukascopy TV. Now do stay tuned, as we have plenty more interviews just like this one heading your way. See you very soon.